So let's now welcome in Mark Ogden and Jurgen Klinsmann to talk more about this. Actually, as we are speaking, Mark, we're seeing that CONMEBOL has actually opened an investigation into those scenes, because that's what we're wondering, like, what will CONMEBOL do next? And could any sort of punishment be given to Darwin Nunez? Obviously, we're hearing why it happened, and you can understand why the players got involved there, but is there any type of punishment that could extend into the new season with Liverpool for him?
Well, this is the concern, certainly from Liverpool's perspective, that they're in the unknown right now as to what is going to happen to Darwin Nunez. So the CONMEBOL statement is the first kind of part of the process, because they are the organisers. They have to act. They're the governing body that controls the Copa America. So their decision on sanction is the first port of call. Now, if CONMEBOL decides to suspend Darwin Nunez, then FIFA can get involved. CONMEBOL can ask FIFA to either make it a global ban, or if FIFA don't feel that CONMEBOL have acted strongly enough, they can then intervene and say this needs to be taken further. But it's difficult to find out right now what is the likely outcome. It's kind of comparing apples and pears. You know, Patrice Evra got a long ban 3 or 4 years ago for attacking a fan in a crowd while he was playing for Marseille. We've had a situation in the Premier League. Eric Dyer got a 4-match ban for confronting fans, not hitting them. So Darwin Nunez situation, it's completely unpredictable right now. And Liverpool, all they're doing is they're going to contact Darwin Nunez. They're going to contact the Uruguayan Football Association to try and find out what's happening. And it's kind of key in that CONMEBOL statement. They've said they want to understand the sequence of events. So that is a kind of a preliminary statement to the findings that they'll discover. They want to know what's happened, basically. And when they know what's happened, when they decide to act, then we'll see what happens next. But Liverpool are probably right to be concerned that this could, you know, develop into a long ban for Darwin Nunez. It really could.
How much of a blow would that be for Liverpool to start the season without him?
I think it'd be a huge blow, wouldn't it? I think that goes without saying. If he is banned from playing for his club side as well as the national team, I think we just, as Mark rightly said, and as the boys were discussing, we just need to find out the full circumstances. If he's gone in because he's worried about the well-being of his family, I mean, any man would do that. So I think a lot has to be taken into consideration, but we'll just wait and see how it unfolds. But I think it'd be very surprising if him and a few of his teammates would get banned after understanding what went on.
Yeah,
terrible situation, though, isn't it? Awful. Because, and as Richard Mendes was saying, they have to realise, the organisers, and particularly in this country, that, as Richard was saying, you don't really see it a lot at the American sports, but unfortunately in the sport that we cover, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's not going away. We saw little clips before the England-Holland game of the Dutch and the English fighting in a bar, and that's kind of the norm. I mean, it's not acceptable, but it's the norm. And when you're a player, I can only imagine seeing grown men, I would imagine it's mainly grown men, fighting in the crowd, throwing punches, and you've got, and we saw from some of the pictures, you've got families in there with toddlers, basically. Yes, yeah. So that's a real... And that goes back to, you know, the toddlers might be with people who are not family of players. They might just be with ordinary supporters, which is fine. But if you are the families, and this is the classic case of CONMEBOL and other federations really thinking about the players last. Yeah. The tickets for the families, they can just go in with the crowd rather than... You have to look after the players, the families, the staff. They have to be housed in a proper... That's not a condoning what happened, but they have to be, you know, seated in a proper area, not amongst the fans where this can happen. And clearly there was no, and certainly not enough security around. But I think he'll get a ban, Darwin, because you can't, as a player, you can't go in and do that. But I get it. We'd all probably jump in and do the same thing. But you have to set a precedent. As a player, as a fan, you cannot enter the field and start a brawl with the players. And as a player, you cannot enter the seating area and get involved with supporters, even when there's mitigating circumstances like there was.
Yeah, obviously a very difficult situation. Jurgen, I know you've been following along with what the panel have had to say here, and obviously you've played and managed in some high-risk scenarios during your career, and now you live here in the United States of America. How surprised are you to see the scenes that we did see between those two sides in Charlotte, and what can be done about it? Because obviously there's a World Cup coming up here, Jurgen.
Oh, absolutely. It's a shock. It's a shock. Maybe it's a big warning sign towards the World Cup in 2 years from now, because as Alejandro said rightfully, you know, when you host a competition of this magnitude, a Copa America is huge. It's huge. You need to understand the people that come into your country, or the people that live in our country and support their teams, how passionate they are, how much are they under influence? As Hercules said, a lot of them start tailgating. They start drinking early. A similar phenomenon we see right now in Germany with the English fans. We all scared. We're scared Sunday that, they might be already out of control before the game even starts against Spain, the final. We all know what happened now. 3 years later, we saw the documentary on what happened at Wembley Stadium 3 years ago at the European Championship final, where thousands of fans, illegally kind of pushed into Wembley Stadium and made it almost a huge disaster. So this is a big warning for all of us, I guess, because when you look forward now to the World Cup in 2 years, you have 48 nations at the World Cup in Mexico, in the United States and Canada. 48 countries coming with their fans coming into the country, supporting their teams, being emotional, and you need to coordinate all that. And I think what happened last night, there was no coordination between the responsible parties. At the end of the day, yes, it's CONMEBOL. Is the host, so-called host, but it's in the United States, so it's under the law of the United States what happens there. And obviously, if you are a player and you see something is going to go to happen, maybe, possibly, to your family, I mean, absolutely, you jump there and you protect your family. And is it wrong? Yeah, in the first moment, absolutely it's wrong. But I share totally your opinion. But this is something that people need to be aware of and take it as a big warning sign towards the next competitions. And I think in that magnitude, it never happened before to host a World Cup in Mexico, in Canada, in the United States, with 48 teams. So there will a lot of things will happen. I totally agree with the fact that Hercules said, when you start drinking in the morning already and the game is in the evening, 6 or 8 o'clock, you're not capable anymore of understanding exactly what goes on. And I think, we all were kind of, criticizing or laughing at Qatar when Qatar announced there's no alcohol at all allowed, even close by the stadiums. But the Qatar World Cup was the friendliest and most peaceful World Cup ever because nobody was under influence. And I think, there's something to learn out of last night. And I hope that the responsible people, that they learn quickly out of what happened last night.
I completely back up what Jürgen just said. Why do you need to drink beers before a game? I can understand you want to celebrate after the game if you won, or maybe if you lost because you're desperate. But why do you want to have a drink from morning to the game, which is around 6 p.m.? It's a complete nonsense, except that it's a marketing system. But I'm against that. And again, in Qatar, it worked very well, and people they did what they had to do. And one other thing. The role model of football player, I say enough is enough now. When you have your family where their lives are at stake, I really think that you have the right to go into the stand and defend them. And if it's the case for Darwin Nunez, he shouldn't be banned because that's only a human reflex. And that's going to be for everybody the same thing. So yeah, they have to stop that. If we have a role model, if football players have a role model, I think fans also have to do their part in it because that's kind of a shame. I saw games at the Staples Center, halftime, between the Lakers and another team. It was funny to see everybody in East Stand, having at the bar, chanting for their own team, teasing each other, nobody moving. That was pure joy to see that. In football, it's a war. And I say enough is enough.